Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something the source material calls a structural puzzle. It's based on this document you shared with us, The Blueprint of Dependency, Reforming African Education. And it asks a really profound, maybe even uncomfortable question.
A big one.
It is.
Yeah.
The core tension we're looking at is this. Why do education systems in so many African nations produce millions of, really smart, ambitious people who are great employees?
Administrators, clerks.
Exactly. But they struggle to produce the people who are equipped and really incentivized to create employment, to build the industries a country needs to develop. So this is an inquiry into the design of the system itself. We're not talking about the capabilities of the people in it. And before we unpack any of this, we have to be absolutely crystal clear.
Yes, the disclaimer is important.
It is. This discussion is exploring structural patterns. It does not suggest that all African countries or all education systems are the same. We're looking at inherited frameworks. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is that the sources jump right into structural design, not personal failure. It frames the problem from the top down.
Right.
If a system, institutionally, historically, rewards administration over actual production, over creating value, then the outcomes are going to reflect that design. It's almost inevitable.
So education is valuable, but only if it's applied.
Understood and applied.
Yeah.
Applied to solve local problems. The sources call this the blueprint of dependency. It's this deep-seated set of incentives, almost an unspoken message the whole process sends to the student about what success even looks like.
And to get that blueprint, you have to go back to the beginning, the historical roots.
The colonial era.
The colonial era. These formal education systems weren't set up for, industrial self-sufficiency. They had a very, very specific operational goal.
A practical one for them.
A practical one for them, yeah.
Yeah.
The goal was to produce a local bureaucracy that worked. They needed clerks, interpreters, bookkeepers, administrators to serve the colonial government.
Manage the resources.
And to manage the resources, facilitate the whole extraction economy. It was training for service within a system someone else owned and controlled, not training for independence.
And that framework, the structure, the core curriculum, has been, it's been incredibly resilient. It's largely still in place decades after independence.
So that historical intent created a really powerful incentive system.
A powerful one. Success became, and often still is, synonymous with getting a job, a stable job in government or finance or a big company. The reward is stability, it's social status, and it's tied to that administrative role.
And the flip side of that coin.
The flip side is what the sources point out. Self-employment, starting a business, entrepreneurship. That's often seen as the backup plan.
For those who couldn't get the good job.
Exactly. For those who failed to get on that white-collar path. And that right there is the heart of the dependency blueprint. Education trains people to fit into existing systems, not to build them or redefine them or ultimately own them.
You're trained to manage what someone else built. Wow. Okay, so if that's the design, what does that look like in practice, in the classroom? This brings us to what the sources call the practicality deficit.
The theory gap.
The theory gap. We're talking about how students are actually taught and tested. The source material points to a heavy, heavy focus on memorization.
Rote learning.
Rote learning, all driven by passing exams. You have to regurgitate facts for a standardized test. The system is testing memory, not necessarily skill.
Exactly. And because of that, because resources are limited and the exam is everything, the practical application gets pushed to the side.
Labs, workshops, field work.
All of it. It becomes secondary. So you have this weak link between the lecture hall and the actual economy. You get this theoretical perfection that then just shatters when it meets the messy reality of the market.
It's just amazing to me that agriculture, which is so vital, is often taught as pure theory. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources give some really sharp examples of this contradiction.
Oh, the examples are perfect. They really highlight the whole thing. In many African curricula, agriculture is taught as abstract theory, soil chemistry, botany, historical crop patterns.
Things you learn from a book.
Things you learn from a book. But what the local economy needs, what actually builds wealth, is agribusiness. It's mechanization, supply chain logistics, commercial production. It's practical, profit-driven action.
Right.
And it's the same with engineering. The curriculum can get boiled down to just complex equations, abstract math. So you can have a brilliant graduate, truly brilliant, who can solve a differential equation on structural stress. But if they can't do the hands-on stuff, like welding or coding a simple microprocessor, or even just diagnosing a common engine failure, they can't really contribute to local manufacturing.
So the knowledge is there, but it's disconnected. It's not linked to actually creating something tangible. The degree proves you can memorize,
Yeah.
but not necessarily that you can build.
It's proof of memory and of compliance with the system. The capability is on paper, but the application is missing.
And that disconnect is made worse by where the curriculum itself comes from.
It's often imported or inherited, designed decades ago for a completely different context, different economies, different priorities.
So you're teaching knowledge that's abstract and imported instead of knowledge that's local and immediately applicable?
Right. So if you're using a textbook designed for a highly industrialized European economy, your students might be learning economic models that don't even account for the massive informal sector right outside their door.
They might know more about European history than their own nation's economic history.
It's a profound mismatch. Think about something like water resources. Students might learn the international standards for water management in a place with tons of rain, but they aren't spending time engineering low-cost, decentralized solutions for water scarcity in their own communities.
Using local material.
Using local materials. So the graduate ends up, as the sources say, globally literate, but locally ineffective. Their knowledge can't easily penetrate and solve the problems right in front of them.
That feels like such a tremendous waste of human potential. Yeah. You have all these bright, highly educated minds, but what happens to them if they can't apply their knowledge where they are?
Well, that's where you have to connect the education system to the wider economy. The source makes a critical point here. Even a perfect education system is incomplete if there's no infrastructure to support it.
You need the whole ecosystem.
The whole ecosystem. You can produce a million world-class engineers, but if there are no factories, no industrial parks, no startup funding, where do they go? Their skills can't be absorbed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what's the outcome?
The outcome, inevitably, is educated unemployment. You have graduates all competing for the very few white-collar administrative jobs the old system trained them for.
Or they leave.
Or they leave. Professional migration. They look for places where their high-level theoretical skills can actually be used. The local economy just doesn't have the industrial density to turn a degree into productivity.
And that has to feed into the cultural and status traps the sources talk about. This idea that a university degree and a desk job equals success.
Yes. And that technical or vocational skills, blue-collar skills, are somehow a sign of failure, or for people who couldn't make it to university.
Which is just tragic. Because everywhere else in the world, the economies that really grow, the ones that lift nations up, are built by skilled technicians.
The machinists, the welders, the coders, the logistics managers, the repair experts.
Right. So when a society stigmatizes the very skills it needs to build things, it's just kneecapping its own development.
It's the economic cost of skill neglect. The system produces degree holders, people seeking a certificate, a status symbol, not producers, not people creating tangible value. The degree becomes a ticket to migrate, not a tool to build at home.
Which brings it all together, I guess.
Yeah.
The final point about how this whole cycle reinforces dependency.
It's the synthesis, yes. Because the education system, by its design, doesn't prioritize teaching people how to manufacture things, how to process local resources to add value, how to innovate. The economic pattern stays the same.
They export raw materials at low value.
Unprocessed coffee, cocoa, minerals.
And then we import the finished goods, the refined metals, the processed foods, the machinery, and we rely on foreign expertise to do the actual value creation.
Precisely. The system, despite everyone's best intentions, ends up sustaining economic dependency. It trains citizens to operate within an external relationship, not to break it and build local independence.
That's a harsh critique, but a necessary one. We have to stress the balance here, though, that the source material really demands.
Absolutely critical.
This analysis isn't saying that Africans are lazy or that education is useless. That is not the point at all.
Not at all. It means the system, the blueprint we inherited, is outdated. The incentives inside it are wrong for today's development goals. The solution isn't to reject education. It's to fundamentally redesign it. Structurally, deep reform, linking the classroom to the factory floor, the lab to the local market. It has to be structural, not just, changing a few course titles.
Redesigning education for development. That really is the key.
Yeah.
This has been a heavy dive, but a really important one.
And it leads right to the big questions, the ones that should be guiding policy. Like, should African education prioritize production capability over just getting a certificate. How do we change that status hierarchy?
Mhm.
And is education reform even possible without a real industrial policy to create demand for these new skills? Because if the factories aren't there, the skills will just leave.
A crucial point.
And finally, how do you redesign universities to be more than just degree factories, to become true centers of local problem solving? What would a truly African-centered curriculum even look like? One that focuses on local resources, local problems, local solutions?
Essential questions. So what does this all mean? I think it means the framework often prepares students to find jobs, not to create value. And the focus has to shift urgently to a structural reform that's all about productivity and innovation. Thank you for diving deep with us today.